Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Khalil, manager with Battle River Research Group. Welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining us. So today we have two speakers. They're going to talk about interactive forage species selection tool for Western Canada. So our first speaker is Karan Shamid. She is research and production manager with Alberta beef producers. Uh, and she's providing a technical support in the areas of cattle health and welfare research and production practices. She works very closely with a number of industry and government organizations on issues of importance to the industry, and large part of her job is translating science to producers and explaining producers' needs to researchers. And our second presenter is Diane Westerlund. She is a manager with Chinook Applied Research Association in ON. uh, she got a huge experience. Whenever I have any question, I always call her. She's native to special areas in Central East Alberta. She has been a real asset in understanding the needs of the area and guiding the development of CARA's program over the years. And in addition to this, she's also oversees the forage program at CARA. So welcome to the webinar. Karen, you can please continue with your presentation.
Sure, thanks Khalil, and thanks to the Battle River Research Group for having me today. I'm excited to talk about a new tool that's called Forage U pick, and I'm hoping everyone can see my slides. Can you see them, Khalil?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right, let's get going. So as Khalil mentioned, I'm the research and production manager with Alberta beef producers, and I was involved in the creation of this Forage U pick tool through the Alberta Beef Forage and Grazing Center. So Forage U pick is an interactive tool that provides information on species best suited for various locations and field characteristics. It also includes a seeding rate calculator and information about weed management. Really, it's an update and an expansion of the Saskatchewan Forage Council's dryland forage species adaptation tool, which was about 12 or 13 years old and actually didn't work on many computers anymore, but still was very popular. So we looked at this as an opportunity to expand this tool that was already in existence. So this particular tool, as of right now, is specific to Western Canada. The information was compiled and vetted by experts from over 13 different organizations, and this project wouldn't have been possible without that expertise and their time that they put into putting this information together. Funding was provided by the Beef Cattle Research Council, the Alberta Beef Forage and Grazing Center, the Saskatchewan Forage Council, and the BC Ministry of Ag through CAP money. And we really think of it as a starting point for decision making. You should really use this as a starting point, and then consult with local experts in your area, the forage research associations, the applied research associations, agronomists, to help you make your final decisions. But why should I even bother using this at all? Well, and as we all know, forage production is essential for beef production. And forage species that are well adapted to growing conditions really make a difference, because that improves establishment, yield, stand vigor, and quality. And in turn, that will reduce costs, improve utilization and grazing days, and also increase your profitability. So I'm really going to run you through a tutorial here about how the tool works. First, you will select your province, and I'm going to go through this step by step with screenshots of how the tool works. You select your soil zone or region if you're in BC. Choose field characteristics that are important to you or that represent your field well, and then you can view your results. And the forage species that are grayed out are not well suited to the zone or field characteristics chosen. But you can click on the image of any of the forages for more information about that species. So here's what the homepage looks like. The first thing we'll talk about is forages suited to my field. This will take you to the kind of the starting point, but at any point in time, you can go back and click this button to select a different soil zone. So in this case, I selected Alberta as the province because we're in Alberta. And Forestburg, where Battle River Research Group is located, is kind of on the edge between the black and the dark brown soil zone. So I picked dark brown. Once you've done that, it takes you to my field characteristics screen. There's 10 different characteristics to choose from, including what you're going to use the forage for, when you're going to use it, if you want legumes, tame or native species or grass species, how long you want the stand to live, how much you'll use that particular field or forage, so kind of the regrowth capability, soil texture, erosion tendency, flooding tendency, salinity, and acidity. You'll get the best results if you focus on your top 1 to 3 characteristics. If you choose too many of these 10, what will happen is you'll end up excluding too many of your forage options. So pick the top 3 that are the most important for you. So in this case, I've picked the purpose of my forage is pasture, my desired plant type is legumes, and I would like about 60 to 80 days between regrowth periods. So I'll potentially use it 1, maybe 2 times a year. Then I click the little green button at the bottom where it says view results. And here are my results. So my best species for this particular selection criteria are alfalfa, Sicer milkvetch, and sweet clover. If I go back and change, I left the purpose of the forage the same as pasture, but I decided that I prefer some longevity instead, and I want my stand to last at least 5 years before I do any rejuvenation. And I'd like a little bit more regrowth out of it. I'd like to use it 2 times per year for sure. So kind of 45 to 60 days between regrazing periods. So here, because I no longer have just selected legumes, I get a bunch of the grass species popping up. So I've got alfalfa, I've got creeping foxtail, meadow brome grass, hybrid brome grass, meadow foxtail, reed canary grass, and tall fescue as potential options. And at any point in time, you can go back and click this return to my field characteristics button and change those selection criteria. So what I've done here is I've just clicked on the image of alfalfa in this page before. So I've clicked right here. And what it shows me is kind of a snapshot of the top 3 characteristics of alfalfa. It pops up a list, and all of these menus drop down with more information on them. So if you click the little plus sign, what it will do is just expand those boxes. And it also gives you pictures to show you what the species looks like. And again, at any time you can return to the list of forages to click a different species. And right from this page, you can also move to the seeding rate calculator, which I'll talk about in a minute. So here what I've done is just expanded a couple of the information boxes, the tolerance and hardiness boxes and the seeding box, so you can just see what sort of information is in those expanded boxes once you click on them for further information. So they've got things like, you know, what your annual precipitation would be for growth, your drought tolerance, your flooding tolerance, winter hardiness, ease of establishment, some management considerations. So that just provides some more detail for each species. I'll stop at this point if anyone has any questions about how to put in the selection criteria. Okay, I don't see any. So we'll move on to the seeding rate calculator. And the seeding rate calculator will self-populate the zone you chose at the beginning, but you can go back and change that by clicking the View Zones button. So there's also a green button at the top that says Forage Mix Info, and that just provides some generalized information about forage mixtures and considerations when you're mixing different types of forages. So here we've still got the soil zone and it's dark brown. You want to answer if this is an irrigated field or not, and if you're seeding for reclamation purposes. All of these default values, so if I click yes for reclamation, it defaults to 50%, but you can change that to whatever value you want. And then this box over here shows a number of situations where an increased seeding rate might improve establishment. So things like fall dormant seeding, if it's a challenging site, if you're broadcast seeding, very fine stemmed alfalfa hay fields. And it gives you some potential values to use to increase your overall seeding rate there. So in this case, I've decided it's a challenging site. I want to increase my overall seeding rate by 20%. You can also change the units from pounds to kilograms if you so desire. I've selected my first forage, which is alfalfa. You can choose whether it's bare or coated seed. And again, you can change that default from 20% if you choose coated seed. I want 50% of my mix to be alfalfa and 50% to be something else. Right at the bottom, which is a little hard to see, it says 50% of the mix has been used. If your values don't end up adding up to 100, it will show up in big red letters that you need to fix that. In this case, I'm using my Pure Live Seeds value that I've gotten from a certified seed off the label. But you can also use a calculation of purity times germination, and again, you can change all those defaults. And I've also put in a cost of $2.25 a pound for this seed. Now, the next step in the seeding rate calculator, it'll give you your alfalfa adjusted seeding rate as well as the cost per acre. And then I'm going to add a forage because I need to make up my other 50% of the mix. So in this case, I selected meadow brome grass, very similar selections here, used a PLS value of 75% and a cost of $2.55 per pound. And that's what I get for the meadow brome grass for the seeding rate of 8.34 pounds per acre and a cost of just over $21 per acre. And then it'll provide you a total seeding rate and total cost of the mix, as well as a summary. So you can see here that it'll give you a summary. You've got 50% alfalfa, 50% meadow brome grass, your seeding rate for each of the species, your costs, and your total costs are at the bottom. You can also download the seeding rate tables in an Excel version if you so choose. Everything is the same in the Excel version. It's just some people like to use Excel rather than the online system, which is fine. Any questions about the seeding rate calculator? You see any questions coming in, Khalil?
No, there's no questions in the chat room now.
Perfect. All right. So the other component of Forage U pick is forage weed management, and you can click that at the top. Also here, I didn't actually circle it in red, but if you click that, it'll take you to the same page. And what you'll see here is a listing of all sorts of apps and websites that contain forage and weed information. So things like invasive plant species guide, weeds of the prairies, the guide to crop protection, and links to the provincial invasive species councils from BC to Manitoba. And so any of these apps, they're direct links that you can download. Some are quite good. Weeds BMP for rangelands in British Columbia is actually applicable across multiple provinces and is quite good. But all of these are fairly user-friendly, and it's noted also which ones assist with weed identification. So at the top, there's another green button that says View Top Weeds. And so for the dark brown soil zone, we have both weeds that have been identified by forage specialists as the top weeds of concern during establishment in the first 2 years of the stand. Things like kochia, sow thistle, foxtail barley, and hawksbeard. And as well, we have the weeds that are are more of an issue in established stands. So things like wormwood, tansy, thistle, quackgrass. So if I click on any of these, I've clicked on kochia here, what will pop up is again, some information about kochia, about managing kochia, where to get some more information, as well as some photos that can assist with identification. So where can I find it? It's available at upic.beefresearch.ca. You can run a search on the BCRC website at beefresearch.ca. You can simply Google Forage UPIC. You can go to the Saskatchewan Forage Council website, or you can go to the Alberta Beef Forage and Grazing Center website. So there's a number of ways that you can access the tool. It is also mobile friendly, so it will work on your smartphone in much the same way. It just can be a little bit tricky to read, so you have to zoom in and zoom out on your phone, but it does work just the same way as I've showed you here on the desktop. I guess I went through that very quickly, so if there are any burning questions right now, we can talk about those now, or if not, I will turn it over to Diane for a bit of a spiel on the perennial forage variety trial.
Okay, thanks, Karen. And thanks, Cahill, for inviting me to participate here this morning. Now that Karen's done a great job reviewing the UPIC Forage Selector tool, and I think it's a great, a really valuable tool for our forage production. We thought it might be timely to mention some of the great sources of info to further support this process of selecting forages for your specific area and use. So during the past decade or so, the number of perennial forage evaluation trials in Western Canada has dropped considerably, but thanks to funding from Alberta beef producers and ALMA, a number of our ARAs participated in a perennial forage evaluation trial beginning in 2016. So this trial included 12 grasses, 15 legumes, most of which were alfalfa, as well as 9 grass and legume mixes. And the grass legume mixes was an area that was really short of information to compare different options there. So we collected data on establishment, short-term productivity, nutritional values, and persistence in the stand. So you can please advance the slide, Karen.
Give me a second here. I clicked something and now it doesn't want to advance. There we go.
So this is just a list of the producer associations in the province. Those with check marks beside them were participants in that 2016 trial that actually was data collected on them. So the report was summarized into eco-region. So some of the information was put together between 2 and 3 sites just to represent the region of the province that data was collected from. Let's see what else. A demo site was established near Cremona by the Foothills Forage and Grazing Association, and other groups have helped to share the information with producers in their areas. A few of our groups have accessed funding from the Canadian Ag Partnership, or the CAP program, to extend the project to collect some longer term data from those 2016 seeded sites. And many of us have also expanded the evaluation of grass and legume combinations. So there will be more valuable information coming from a number of the groups over the next couple of years. And our last slide, Karen. So just thought we'd finish with some contact information for our producer associations. All are doing some work in perennial forages and or have connections to lots of information related to perennials. So give us a call or send us a note and we'll help you out as best we can. And that's all I have, Karen. So unless there's any questions.
Yeah, with that, I guess we can move to the question portion. I don't need to share my screen anymore.